Hey guys, it's Sean O'Connell, the managing director here at Cinema Blend, and we are ready to break down the Marvel panel from Hall H, the biggest panel here at San Diego Comic-Con. Clearly, I cannot do this on my own, so I am being joined by events editor Eric Eisenberg, our resident superhero guru. Eric, how are you, sir?
I am over the moon right now. I am so, my brain is bursting. My blood pressure is, I'm about to start spurting blood out of my fingers. It's wonderful.
Oh, is that good?
Yes, that's a very good thing.
Oh, all right.
This
I
is
just
a
wanted to make
good
sure.
thing.
There's a lot to cover. We're going to be
Yes.
settle in, Marvel fans, because we're going to go over everything that was announced from the Hall H stage by Marvel president Kevin Feige. And believe me, he had said they don't come back to Hall H unless they have a lot to announce. And they brought a ton of stuff. And it wasn't just the movies that are going to be coming out. They dipped a lot into the Disney Plus, which is the new streaming service that is going to be a full continuation of the MCU. These are MCU projects with MCU actors and characters, and you'll see in a minute when we start to discuss some of them, they're going to affect
Tie directly in.
things that go on in the movies.
Yep.
So should we start where the panel started, or should we start on the timeline of where they go?
Let's start on the timeline.
Okay.
That makes sense.
All right, so kick us off with May of 2020.
May of 2020, as we've kind of thought for a minute it was going to be, is going to be Black Widow, which is a movie that has now been in production for all of a month. And yet they were still able to bring the cast onto the stage, including Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, and not only that, but they brought us some footage. They brought us our first ever look at Black Widow, which sadly isn't going to be available online. But I gotta say, I was super impressed by it. It looks like the events are going to be taking place shortly after the events of Captain America: Civil War. Basically, after Black Widow winds up letting Captain America and Winter Soldier get away and shocking Black Panther so he can't stop them. Tony Stark tells Natasha they're going to be coming for you, so Natasha goes on the run, and it seems like that's where this movie picks up. And it goes to Budapest, which is by itself an interesting detail because those fans of the Avengers will remember the whole fun exchange between Black Widow and Hawkeye, and they're talking about how this is reminding them of Budapest, and that, of course, got a callback in Avengers Endgame. But this isn't going to be that story, but it is going to be set in that European city.
Now, we were able to speak to the cast on the red carpet, and Florence Pugh, first of all, she said that the fight scene that we watched them do was the very first scene that she shot.
Excellent. That's a way to throw you right into that. Yeah.
It is a hard-hitting fight scene that reminded me that the tone of this of the footage that we saw had an Alias vibe to it, and it had a Killing Eve vibe to it. It has a sort of a European, stripped-down, bare-bones fight. But I do want to say, and hopefully our video team will be able to throw to this when we do it, before Scarlett Johansson left our red carpet interview, I asked her, you can't do a story in Budapest without Hawkeye, and she told us this.
You tell me.
I will say, actually, though, that one thing, you mentioned those two shows, but honestly, one thing that the action really reminded me of was Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which was really kind of the most honestly, I think it is the best action movie that Marvel has made so far.
Yeah.
And just the throwdown fight that not only goes down between Yelena, who's played by Florence Pugh, and Black Widow, that's awesome. But of course, at the end of the footage, we also got the big reveal of, it appears, who the villain of Black Widow is going to be, which is the villainous Taskmaster, who I am tremendously excited about. For those who don't know the character, he is a villain who has the capacity to mimic any opponent. So any person that he fights, he's able to immediately completely understand the way that they physically move and completely mirror it and basically throw it right back at their face.
Okay.
And that, we saw in the footage that they're basically just doing a mirror fight, and it was awesome.
Now, the Florence Scarlet fight was also very much a mirror fight.
It's true, and they are both Black Widows
purpose,
from the
do you
comics.
think?
I wonder if maybe there's a little bit of a thing
hint
there.
a
Yeah,
subtle
that'd be
hint?
interesting.
All right. And then David Harbour's character, you'll probably know more about than I do. He said he's the Russian answer to Captain America.
Sure, he's called the Red Guardian.
Right.
And actually, I can't say that I know too much about that character, but it is interesting that it seems that he is. And it's funny that David Harbour even showed up in a Captain America shirt on stage.
Yes, he
and
did.
And mentioned when he was actually asked if that was his favorite character, he said that he had a complicated relationship with him,
Yes,
which
he did.
interesting enough.
All right. Well, so fall of 2020, after Black Widow comes to theaters, we will get our first Disney Plus series, and it's going to be an MCU-connected show. It is The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan are going to be continuing that story. And while, we're intrigued to see those two come back and step back into those characters, obviously they have great chemistry. They're a lot of fun on the press side together. Also,
Oh, man.
The tease of the villain is what really hooked me, because I was like,
Totally.
okay, Falcon and Winter Soldier, that'll be fun, but how much do I really want to see the continuation of their story? But once they told us who the villain was going to be, I was all in. Why don't you reveal who's going to be up against them?
Sure. Well, this is actually a little bit of information that we kind of leaked out before, but Daniel Bruhl will be back as Baron Zemo, who, he, of course, was the main villain in Captain America Civil War. Absolutely epic, great, just mental manipulator, just like he kind of has a way of kind of basically planning 10 steps ahead of anybody he's facing off against. One of the great Captain America villains from the comics. However, it's worth noting that one thing that wasn't included with the character in Captain America Civil War was a certain aspect of his costume, aka his purple mask, which in the comics is actually basically attached to his face permanently. And there was kind of this big video break in the middle of the Falcon and Winter Soldier segment where Daniel Bruhl kind of came in with a video message, and at the very end of that video message was wearing the actual purple mask, which
Yes.
awesome.
Got
Just
people really,
awesome.
really excited.
Super, super cool.
And he has a good motivation for having to go against, both Falcon and Winter Soldier. So-
Absolutely.
But I have a question, and I know Mackie came out with the shield, did he not?
He did.
I mean, is he going to be Cap in this?
Honestly, from what I've heard, there was actually a news story that broke today that said that he has already screen tested in a Captain America. He's already tried on the Captain
that's
America uniform.
dope.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's
right?
gonna be
Although I wish they
great.
showed a picture of it, because now I'm just have the image in my head and
Yeah.
I want to see it.
But I wonder why they call him Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, that's a weird. I thought that maybe there was going to be like a title change. but-
Right. Yeah, they should have done that. Okay, well, so there's a third project coming from Marvel in 2020. So we have Black Widow, we have the Falcon and the Winter Soldier on D23. Then, no, D23.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
Disney
on
Plus.
Disney Plus.
There you go.
Sorry. But then going back into theaters in November of 2020, Jack Kirby's World will come to life on the big screen in The Eternals. And we got to see the entire cast for this anticipated film also roll out here. This is going to be developing even more the cosmic side of the MCU, a place where the Guardians of the Galaxy currently exist. Captain Marvel operates in and out of the cosmic side too. I assume we'll continue to explore that side. Eternals is going to go full bore into the science fiction fantasy realm. Their history is a little bit complicated.
Sure.
You probably know more about it than I do at this point.
Basically, it goes back thousands of years. They have a certain kind of position on Earth where they've been kind of studying it for a long, long time. And these are Jack Kirby creations, just kind of big, otherworldly, cosmic ideas. And they didn't reveal too much about the movie, but I
Right.
think what was really kind of meant to capture our attention was just the cast that they're putting
Right.
together for this, which includes Angelina Jolie, it includes Salma Hayek, it includes Kumail Nanjiani, like it's
Richard
just-
Madden from Game of Thrones, yes.
So yeah, that I am curious. It is interesting that I feel like that movie is coming up so quickly, and yet they didn't have too much to say about it.
Right.
But it definitely looks interesting.
And
for sure.
it's fun. I mean, it's giving Marvel a chance to introduce a new team and all new characters in another realm of the universe. We know they want to start building out the cosmic side. And I found it interesting in the course of this reveal that Guardians 3 was not included.
Right.
And some of the other sort of big Fox titles that might roll over were not included either. They're really focusing on introducing new properties into the MCU, which will branch over into February of 2021. The first movie that's coming out is Shang-Chi. Now, Shang-Chi, we've
And
been
The
hearing
Legend
about
of the Ten Rings, which I love as a subtitle. That's amazing.
Okay, so that's interesting because
Yes.
Black Widow doesn't have a subtitle, and you would think that she probably should have had one. I thought maybe
Well, I
it'd be
feel like the solo character launches typically don't, like Iron Man, Doctor
Yeah,
Strange,
yeah,
Thor.
yeah,
They all.
that's
It's
very
really
true.
not until the sequels.
And
that they do
Eternals
that,
doesn't
so.
have a subtitle,
Yeah.
but then Shang-Chi does.
But Shang-Chi does.
Shang-Chi does.
Special.
Okay, and so that ties into, as Eric says, the Legend of the Ten Rings. And what I loved, because we can have our Iron Man 3 debate all over
We're
again
gonna have this now?
on our video,
Yeah, right.
is that Kevin Feige has said that the Ten Rings have been evident in the MCU, and they pointed to specific references of the short that they did where Ben Kingsley went to the prison. I was looking down when they mentioned the Ant-Man reference.
The Ant-Man, it's actually kind of funny about Ant-Man because it was actually something that I visited the set. When I visited the set of Ant-Man, I actually got to see the actual character.
Okay.
He has a tattoo of the 10 rings on his neck. He's
Where
one
is
of
he?
the
What scene?
he's one of the buyers of the
particles?
the PIM
The
particles when
particles?
the Corey Stoll character,
Yeah,
I'm
Yellow
blanking out.
Jacket.
Yellow Jacket, when
Yeah.
he's trying to sell them, he's one of the buyers
Get
that's present.
outta
So,
here.
yep,
All right, so the 10
that's the whole
rings have
thing.
been around for a long time, and that means that the real Mandarin exists in the MCU. And as Feige said, he was pretty annoyed by everything that happened in Iron Man 3, and this is going to be his chance to sort of get back at everybody who wronged his name.
Exactly.
So I love that Mandarin is coming back in a traditional sense, and also what we learned about the casting of Shang-Chi. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, for starters, they have actually cast the new Mandarin. It's Tony Leung. But I am actually tremendously excited about who they cast as Shang-Chi. It's this actor named Simu Liu, who I think most audiences probably aren't familiar with. The reason I'm familiar with him, though, is because he's actually the star of this Canadian sitcom that I really enjoy called Kim's Convenience. Available on Netflix. Give it a watch because it's actually really, really funny.
And he got confirmed in the role on Sunday. This is
No,
Saturday
he screen
right now.
tested on Sunday.
Oh, screen tested?
And he confirmed on Tuesday,
So
which
his-
is all the more insane.
His life changed this week.
Right, exactly.
In the most drastic way possible.
And then suddenly he's on the stage, on the biggest stage in this entire industry,
And
basically. So
no footage from Shang-Chi, but the subtitle, which is enough to get everybody really, really excited, the return of the Mandarin. So after February of 2021, we're going into the spring of 2021, and this made me laugh so hard because we knew that Wanda and Scarlet Witch were going to get, Wanda and Vision were going to get their own Disney Plus show. And that was confirmed. Paul Bettany and Elizabeth Olsen came out to talk about the show. But that first bit of concept art looked exactly like a comic that Eric said to me, oh, they're going to pull from this totally for the WandaVision. And it seems to me that's exactly what they're doing.
Exactly. So for those who don't know, this is something I've talked about in the Hero Blend podcast before, but it looks like one of the main inspirations for this show is going to be the Vision series that was written by Tom King. It just came out a couple years ago. What it kind of centers on is Vision is trying to essentially start his own family, kind of live a Norman Rockwell-esque existence. However, there is remarkably deep darkness that kind of unfolds as he's trying to create this special reality for himself. And given what we know about even Scarlet Witch's powers in the comics, she has the ability to basically change reality, which has its own interesting twists within it by itself, but also just the fact that right now Vision is dead. And in fact, Paul Bettany on stage actually said that he has no idea. He last time he checked, he died in Avengers Infinity War after Thanos pulled the Mind Stone out of his head, and he said that, I think he said something along the lines of, I haven't been this confused in front of this many people in my entire life. So I mean, like, that by itself is interesting, but if you think about like kind of what Scarlet Witch can do, it'd be interesting if she kind of like manipulates reality to somehow bring him back. Ooh. And in doing so maybe screws up a little bit.
Because Lizzie Olsen also said you're finally going to get to see the full power.
Exactly. Her powers have been progressing and getting bigger and bigger as these movies have continued. And maybe this is kind of the place where it kind of steps into a whole new place where like her grief kind of for the loss of Vision, which she's very much affected by at the end of Avengers Endgame, that winds up again affecting reality.
I still buy into the theory that Shuri did something to preserve Vision's essence or something in the Wakandan database that she's saving him somehow in there.
I guess we'll find out in spring 2020.
I guess we will. And in addition to spring 2021, we also got confirmation of a series, another fan favorite who will be coming to Disney Plus. Tom Hiddleston will return for a Loki series. And they were able to confirm, again, no footage, got a title treatment. Tom Hiddleston came out on the Hall H panel, and Kevin Feige said that the one question he got the most from fans after Endgame was, where did Loki go? And so they showed the scene on the screen. They said, pay attention to where Loki is at this point. And it was the during the time heist when they're back. The Avengers from the present day are in the first Avengers movie. The Tesseract gets away from Tony, and Loki picks it up and then disappears. And they stop the footage right at that moment, and they confirm that the Loki series on Disney Plus will answer where Loki went with the Tesseract. And so what Hiddleston then pointed out was, everyone's going to ask, are you the reformed Loki from Thor Ragnarok?
Nope.
And he said, no, I'm very much the Loki that was in the first Avengers movie, and he's still
Basically, right after getting Hulk smashed.
yeah. The last thing that happened to this character is that he got smashed by Hulk multiple times. As I think that's a tremendous way to let Hiddleston play in that particular part of the role. Before we get to the next Disney Plus series, because there are a few more that they offered, I believe at this point in the timeline, we're up to the second movie in 2021, the one that will kick off the summer season.
Yep.
Eric, tell them what it is.
This would be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which. I was gonna say it's my favorite title, but it's actually not. Like, there actually is one that we're gonna be talking about that, like, but that says everything in my opinion. Like, this title is amazing, and yet it's still not even the best of the Phase 4 that we know so far.
So very true. So Scott Derrickson is back.
Scott Derrickson is back, and one thing that he stressed, and this is something that probably won't surprise anybody who's largely familiar with the work of Scott Derrickson.
Right.
But he apparently, when he was negotiating for coming back to the sequel and talking about what he wanted to do, the thing that he said is that I want to get into the stuff that made me love Doctor Strange comics to begin with, which is kind of the psychedelic, horror, horrific material that comes from the unknown reaches of the multiverse. And that's the movie that we're apparently getting. It was confirmed that this is going to be the first official horror movie featured in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's still going to be PG-13. That was a point that Kevin Feige stressed because, like, immediately
someone screamed out.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So it is going to be PG-13. They're not crossing that lane just yet. However, to tie back into what we were just talking about, WandaVision. Doctor Strange 2 is going to feature Scarlet Witch not only is it going to feature Scarlet Witch in a key role, but Kevin Feige also confirmed, to tie into also what you were just saying, that the events of WandaVision are actually going to tie directly into the events of Doctor Strange.
And I find it pretty remarkable of how far we've come since Strange's origin story in terms of what they can do in the MCU and what the audience is prepared to accept. With everything they went through in Infinity War and Endgame, with time travel, with another Thanos coming in, and then the suggestion of the multiverse, I think this really allows this Doctor Strange story to blow things out and get really freaky and weird. Back to summer of 2021, we're back to the Disney Plus streaming service. I will tell you, this is the project that I am most intrigued by. It is an animated series, the first that Marvel is doing, and it's based on the long-running Marvel Comics title What If, which would take existing storylines in the MCU and turn one thing to make it a completely different story.
Exactly.
What if Spider-Man was able to save his uncle? What if the Fantastic Four never went through the radiation stream to change their powers? And what they confirmed was that all of the original MCU, or most of the MCU actors, were going to be coming back to voice their characters. And so I got a chance to talk to Feige on the red carpet, and I specifically asked him about What If. And I said, I'm really intrigued about what this can do for you guys. How does it feel really freeing to be able to do stuff in animation, because you're not limited to what, the actors that you're using and the practicality? And I said, is the series going to be limited to who we've met in the MCU on screen before? Like, I didn't want to introduce the X-Men and the Fantastic Four through an animated series to sort of rush the thing. And he said, all of the stories in the What If Disney Plus show are going to address events that fans have seen take place in the MCU to this point, but they will tweak something in each of them so that it changes your perspective of what you saw in those stories. And so don't expect to see any of the Fox heroes introduced. Don't expect to see Silver Surfer or someone like that come through. It'll be tied to everything that's happening in the MCU, but I just can't wait to see some of the artists that they might bring in, for a What If series.
No,
like
I'm
this.
curious about just what the animation style is going to be, because I mean, they have the resource. I mean, it's Disney. I mean, Disney is like it's Disney. I think that's really all you need to say on that front. What was also really interesting that apparently there is going to be one character who is kind of tying the whole thing together, which is going to be Well, they didn't specifically name him, but it's going to be one of the Watchers, who is going to be voiced by Westworld star Jeffrey Wright, who came on stage at Hall H. Great voice. I'm very excited for that. Are you surprised they didn't just make him Uatu now that? Yeah.
100%.
So for those who don't know, Uatu is kind of the best known of the Watchers, which is this alien species that is best known for even Uatu lives on the moon, and he specifically observes the events on Earth and makes sure that everything kind of goes as it should.
Right.
And while he's not technically supposed to actually be involved with anything, he does occasionally kind of get his fingers in
that
there.
line struck me when Jeffrey Wright said, "It's my job to observe and occasionally interfere," and I thought, no, it's not.
It's not your job to.
You're
but
not
you're gonna do it
really
anyway.
Supposed to do that.
Exactly.
Okay, we're gonna go over to. Let's stay in fall of 2021, the last of the Disney Plus series shows that they announced. This one is, to me, highly anticipated because it's more Jeremy Renner. They're doing a Hawkeye series, and they confirmed that he will be mentoring Kate Bishop as part of the show, which is great. And Renner came out, talked about the ability to continue to explore this character. But it was really cool. They showed all of this great footage of Renner through the years as Hawkeye. As Hawkeye. And it was very much like, it hammered home to me this, you're in a world with these multi-powered heroes, and you're a guy, who's really good with the bow and arrow. It was like Linda Cardellini's speech from Age of Ultron of just like, these are gods, and you're a human essentially, and you could get hurt, and maybe you shouldn't keep doing this. And they said they're going to explore not only his mentorship of Kate Bishop, but some of his time as Ronin. And I was pretty intrigued by that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And they didn't announce who's going to be playing Kate Bishop. Presumably that's the casting that's going to happen later this year. But for those, if you want to get ready for this, just to drop another comic book title, Hawkeye by Matt Fraction and David Aja is going to be the main kind of inspiration for this, which is the comic where Hawkeye, aka Clint Barton, started to take Kate Bishop under his wing, teach her to be the new Hawkeye. It's absolutely wonderful, really great, and I can 110,000% see why Jeremy Renner would want to continue playing this character with that in mind. But I'm all in on this, and
Get excited, people, because Taika Waititi was out on stage to talk about Thor 4, which from here on out will now be known as Thor, Love, and Thunder.
Which is my favorite title. That's the reason why I couldn't call Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness my favorite title, because Thor, Love, and Thunder, that's amazing. That's incredible.
It was really cool. Like the graphics that they showed before they got to the title reveal was like a beating heart, and it was like this very colorful graphic, and I was like, what is this?
Yeah, exactly.
that
I had no
they're
idea
showing?
exactly what it was.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like it's an 80s like heavy metal logo.
Oh,
which
it looks ripped right off of an album cover of a cheesy 80s hairband, which I love. I think that's fantastic.
Exactly.
And even the music they were playing behind it just was getting the crowd pumped up. So Chris Hemsworth came out, Tessa Thompson came out. They talked about how they're going to continue to develop their chemistry together, obviously build off of what Taika did in Thor Ragnarok, which took the franchise in a very different direction. Before we get to the big surprise of the Thor panel, I want to ask you this, because this struck me as very odd. When last we saw Thor, he was leaving with the Guardians.
This is true.
This movie is arriving before Guardians 3.
Yeah.
Isn't that strange?
That's strange. And it kind of makes me wonder if maybe the Guardians could make an appearance in Thor 4 just before they, because it's worth noting that Guardians 3 was not mentioned here.
Right.
That movie was originally going to be coming out in 2020, but then the whole thing happened with literally over the past year, because it was at Comic-Con last year that James Gunn got fired.
Right, that's right, yeah.
So that kind of changed things up a little bit. So, but I wouldn't be too surprised if maybe like we see the Guardians just dropping Thor off wherever he wants to be at the beginning of this movie.
Pretty
And
cool.
where that's going to be, I don't know. But the big announcement definitely has us thinking some interesting things about where he's going to be just as the God of Thunder.
Yes. Well, there's a female Thor in the comics,
Yep.
and it was the character of Jane Foster. And I thought, well, there's no way that the movies could ever do that.
So they were kind of slow playing the reveal of what it was going to be, and so what kind of comics were going to be inspirational to this approach.
Yeah.
And he name dropped The Mighty Thor by Jason Aaron, and as soon as he said that, I'm like, wait a minute, that was the one where Jane Foster became Thor.
Right.
And then within the next minute, Natalie Portman was on stage, and not only on stage, but wielding Mjolnir, which was
It was pretty awesome.
That was pretty great. So, yeah.
The reaction I've seen from that is pretty mixed. Not for. I actually think it's great. I really want to see her come back and accept that role again. Jane Foster's a really important character
Oh, yeah.
in the Thor universe, and I always thought it was strange to move forward with it. It's almost like Cap, ignoring Peggy Carter in a way. So I love that she's back, but some people were like, "Oh, she's only coming back now because Taika made Thor movies good again," kind of thing. But MCU is a family, and I'm
Exactly.
really happy that she's still part of the franchise. All right, so that basically covers all of the titles that were revealed on
That's
the
2 years
slate.
worth of content, it's worth noting.
So
this is 2 years.
Yeah, so Eric and I were having this discussion before the thing even rolled. Kevin Feige has been saying, and he said it on the press line multiple times, that this is the entirety of Phase 4. But you're saying that that can't be because it's only 2 years worth of stuff.
It's only 2 years worth of stuff, and also at the very end, he even kind of rattled off a list of projects.
Yes.
It was like we mentioned all this stuff. We have not mentioned Black Panther 2. We haven't mentioned Captain Marvel 2. He
Guardians
named
3.
dropped Fantastic Four, which
he did name drop them in my.
by itself.
I got the
is
chills.
Awesome.
And he mentioned mutants.
And he mentioned the mutants, which he has said aren't going to be coming around until 2025.
But at the very least, if this full slate that we just discussed is the entirety of Phase 4, Kevin Feige would not let us leave without a tease of what could even come beyond it. Not a title that any of us expected.
Nope. And in fact, actually, that's what he like. It's interesting that most of these titles, Eternal, Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange, and Thor 4, these are all movies that prior to
Black
coming
Widow, too,
to,
Black
and,
Widow.
and Black Widow,
Yeah.
prior to coming to Comic-Con, we knew that these movies were in the works.
Right.
There have been news stories about it. They've picked up filmmakers, and that even includes like Black Panther 2, which already has Ryan Coogler attached.
We just wanted details.
Right.
Yeah.
But Kevin Feige specifically said, this is one that hasn't gotten out there yet, and this is what I was teasing earlier.
Yeah.
It's the fact that Mahershala Ali himself is going to be playing Blade in an upcoming Blade movie set in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Which is incredible. And again, if they're branching into horror with the Doctor Strange film,
Yep.
then Blade can just keep pushing that envelope into totally different areas. And what it says to me too, Mahershala Ali, 2-time Oscar winner,
Yep.
is happy to take on the lead role in a Marvel Studios film, a franchise where he's playing a vampire, essentially. Half vampire, full assassin.
There you go.
But yet, I love it. And it had a tone of the way that Brie Larson was introduced as Captain Marvel. I just hate that we have to wait a really long time now
We have to wait a
until
little
it
longer for it.
happens. Well, we hope you guys are as excited as we are about all of the content that's coming from Marvel Studios. Today's panel was super exciting. It was really great to be in the room in Hall H, to feel the excitement and to play along with Kevin Feige as he revealed, again, with such confidence is the only word that I keep bringing out, was that he just knows that he believes in the way that Marvel's telling their stories, and he hopes that you guys will travel along on the journey. Again, this is events editor Eric Eisenberg. I am Sean O'Connell, the managing director here. Thank you so much for listening to our full analysis of everything that was revealed at the Marvel Studios Hall H panel. And if you want to check out all of our coverage from San Diego Comic-Con, head to the website Cinema Blend, go to our YouTube page. We've got a lot of videos up there, a ton of stories, and you can catch up with everything that we learned while we were here in San Diego.